Hey guys, welcome back to another video, and today we're going to be taking a look at yet another little plinker and hunting rifle, this Marlin Model 60 in 22 LR. First and foremost, as always, going to visually and physically inspect the chamber. I'll even cycle it a couple times, and I can see the follower from the tube-fed magazine, so we are clear. The Marlin Model 60 is arguably one of, if not the most popular 22 semi-auto ever produced, at least until 2020, when unfortunately the line ended. When Ruger bought out Marlin Firearms, which was a good thing for the company considering it was previously owned by Ruger, and just about everybody at this point knows how that went. Lever actions, finally, they got some quality back in them. They're very well known, but they killed the Model 60 and the XT series of 22s. That way they didn't have nearly as much competition in that market, and they could focus on one product line, or at least Strum and Ruger could, being the 1022 and their 22 lineups for the Ruger American and the bolt action. What you got with the Marlin Model 60 was a simplistic designed 22 LR that was made to throw just about any 22 bullet you could think of from any manufacturer, and it would run it. Very few things do not run well through this particular rifle. On top of that, there wasn't many accessories out there for the Model 60. Granted, there were a couple, but when you compare it to something like the 1022, it's minuscule at most, maybe 3% to 2% of what's available for that gun. And that's kind of the whole point of the Marlin Model 60 compared to 1022 was for those that want to customize it to their fittings, whereas this Marlin was just for people that wanted a firearm out of the box to do the job that they wanted to do, maybe throw an optic on it, and that's it. Take it as a little squirrel gun, little plink gun, and be relatively inexpensive. And considering this thing for the most part sold under $200, it was certainly that. Now, takedown is a little bit more difficult than 1022s or other 22 semi-autos of today, but it's a 60-year-old design as well. But it's still simple enough. You just remove, I think, 3 or 4 screws along here on the bottom. You can get to the receiver, the barrel, easy to clean everything out. You can take your slide off, well, not the slide, but charging handle. You can take your bolt, pretty easy to clean. Now, in a video many years ago, I had said that I prefer the Marlin Model 60 over the 1022. Granted, that's been quite a while, but my opinion still hasn't changed all that much for the application of this particular firearm and my main application in general, which is small game hunting. I really like the triggers on the Marlin Model 60s overall. It would be nice if they were a little lighter, but they're relatively crisp braking, which is a big benefit. The other thing is this tube-fed magazine has many advantages out in the woods. You have 16 rounds in here, and most of the time when you're small game hunting, I am shooting usually 10 or less and getting 5 or so squirrels. But the tube-fed magazine, it's not going anywhere. As long as you keep your tube within the magazine itself as you load it, you flip it around, get that follower just out, you're not going to lose this in the woods, or it's less likely, I should say. Whereas with the 1022, those 10-round box magazines, even the 25s, whatever you prefer, it's one more thing that you may decide to keep in your pocket, or it may fall out, depending on the state you live in, if you're allowed to have it in the firearm, things of that nature. It's just one more thing to lose, in my opinion, whereas all of this is in one place. You shouldn't be able to lose anything, so it adds a little bit of simplicity to design. Plus, everything's in line. You don't have anything sticking out at the bottom, so it's just what I prefer generally. I kind of like tube-fed 22s, whether it be for semi-autos, pump actions, lever guns, any of those really. Even bolt actions, I would love to see a tube-fed bolt action come back out on the market. That was the XT series. But again, my opinion, another benefit to the Marlin Model 60 is that parts are still readily available, while not as much so as the 1022. You can still find parts as needed. The biggest thing I think associated with these Marlins, if I remember correctly, is they have a polymer block in the back of the receiver for the blowback action, and those can fail over time. Granted, it's over many, many rounds, but they're relatively cheap and easy to replace, which is very fortunate. If you have a much older model, such as a 60s model, then you might have feeding ramp issues, because the feeding ramps were 2-piece two-piece ramps that were pinched together essentially, whereas now it's a one-piece construction for the newer models. And you would see issues with feeding ramps. That's more problematic with the Glenfields, and it's very difficult to find the feed throat conversion kits and things of that nature today. Well, I think I've discussed enough about this rifle. I want to go ahead and throw some 22 LR in it, and we're going to do some practical small game hunting ranges starting at 25 yards to 50 yards and then pushing it back to 75 yards. I have a couple of shots loaded up here. We'll take a few and see what we can do at about 25 yards free-handing it. Just about all the rounds on target. I think I was a little off the right on one of those, but 25 yards, pretty quick target acquisition, got on them within relatively good timing, and as you can see, just accurate as it could be. Now I'm going to back this target up to about 50 yards, and we'll take a couple more shots at a little bit farther distance free-handing. One thing I do want to mention real quick is that this firearm only holds 14 rounds. Hopefully that's going to appease the YouTube algorithm as well as the reviewers, which can sometimes be problematic. But here we go, 14 more rounds at 50 yards. Try to freehand this, not one of my best strategies here, but we'll go for it, see what we can do. We are clear. Missed a couple of shots on that little 4-inch on the side. I think it's just a little bit right currently, so I'll have to adjust the scope, but not too bad. Now I want to set it back to about 75 yards, which I would say is nearly the max for, I would say, most hunters for small game. Really 50 yards is, but sometimes you'll have to take that long shot if there's not too much leaves on the trees or anything of that nature. All right, last set at 75, 80 yards. I wonder if I'll be able to hit these. Well, I had one more bullet than I thought I did, but not too bad. Again, 75 yards. Had to push up a little bit just because it's 22 LR cartridge, and this thing is sighted in for 50, but wonderful as always. Well, guys, that's going to be it for today. I do hope y'all enjoyed seeing this little Marlin Model 60 in action. Hopefully I'll be able to get it out to the woods this winter and maybe try to take a couple squirrels or some other small game. Let me know if you're interested in seeing that. As for today though, if you enjoyed today's video, please make sure to share, like, and subscribe for more. And as always, thanks for watching.